what more can I say? A weekend that isn't ruined by Sunderland for once. 3 goals, 3 points, 1 adrift of Norwich with a game in hand. Come on, lads. Right, well, obviously we know it's not safety yet. Far from it. But I was actually at the Newcastle game today, guys, for those of you who don't know. Sorry for my sins. I promise to beg for forgiveness. But no, I think today's game was probably was bigger than the derby, and we all know how hyped up that was a couple of weeks ago. It was bigger because this was like Judgment Day for Sunderland. You need to get Terminator 2 music out. Seriously, on that note, one of the greatest movie soundtracks you'll ever see, or hear rather. But anyway, I'm going off topic. This game was bigger than the Newcastle game for a couple of reasons. One, because, well, I mean, it wasn't the pressure of the Newcastle game was big in itself because it was a derby, but it wasn't season defining. It was certainly, in that respect, the derby for me was a game that Sunderland, although we could have done with winning that game, the primary objective was to not lose it for me. Whereas this game was a must-win. We couldn't afford to drop points and let Norwich keep any ground on us, or extend it rather. Because if Norwich had beaten us today, or whenever you're watching this, if Norwich had beaten Sunderland, that's it. It would have been game over. We weren't going to recover 7 points, even with a game in hand which have Everton, Arsenal and Chelsea left to play. A draw wouldn't have been disastrous. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, but at the same time, it would have been a much better result for Norwich than for Sunderland. And I saw a couple of Norwich fans saying they wanted to win just to get 7 points on us, and I suspect that's to do with the running that they've got. However, they should have just kept it at a draw, because a draw would have been a good result for Norwich. They would have been happier with it than us, because it would have kept the gap at 4 points, irrespective of the games in hand. Our game in hand is effectively Arsenal next week, which we're not going to get anything out of, or at least highly unlikely to get anything out of. So you would have to play those games in hand and win them to make them count. So when we still have to do that. So a point would have been better for Norwich than it would have been for Sunderland. But, you know, if we were to win today, we would have every chance of survival. And thankfully, we won. Get in! Thankfully, we won today, and it was the biggest. I think it was the biggest win of the season so far. But it was a massive and much badly needed 3 points. Did any of you guys know that? Here's an interesting statistic for you. Before today, the last time Sunderland won away at Norwich in the league was March 1985. 31 years. Well, now we can say 2016, bitches. So I'm exhausted from it, to be perfectly honest. Newcastle slightly ruined it by having to beat Swansea, but nevertheless, I did say before the game that if Sunderland beat Norwich, that Newcastle would indeed beat Swansea. I don't really give it 2 monkeys, to be honest. If I can tolerate Newcastle beating Swansea as long as Sunderland finish 17th and Norwich, Villa and Newcastle go down. Now, Villa are mathematically gone, of course. So Villa, one request, beat the Mags and take them down with you, please. There's still a long way to go yet. Newcastle have their game in hand this week. In fact, both their teams have games in hand this coming week. Newcastle play twice before Sunderland next kick a ball. They play Man City at home and Liverpool away, so hopefully they'll lose both of them. But look at this now. So say if Newcastle do lose against Man City and Liverpool, let's assume that did happen, because there's no guarantees in football based on how the way this season's gone. Leicester winning the league, for goodness sake. So if the norm does happen and Man City and Liverpool both beat Newcastle in the next week, Sunderland have a chance to get out of the relegation zone. Now, personally, I don't see us getting anything against Arsenal, but if Newcastle do lose against Man City and lose against Liverpool, I would snap your hand off for a point against Arsenal, because it would take us out the bottom 3. But remember, Sunderland, we also play twice before Norwich next kick a ball, because they go away to Arsenal in 2 weeks, and that's a 5:30 kick-off. Yeah, I'm sad that I've researched all of this, but we've got every chance now to stay up. I'm not saying we're definitely going to, but we've got a chance now to do it. We've closed the gap to 1 point. And the only bad thing that could possibly come from this is that we've given Newcastle a route back into it. I was at the Newcastle game, and I'll quickly say on that, Newcastle didn't deserve to win 3-0, but certainly did deserve to win for me, because Swansea didn't offer enough. They had a couple of decent chances in the second half, but other than that, Newcastle were relatively comfortable at the back and did create the opportunities. But that's because Swansea had nothing to play for. Newcastle were the team that needed to win, so fair play to them for that. But I'm just over the moon with it, because being a Sunderland fan recently has been so draining. If you look at the leads were let slip against Southampton, Newcastle, Palace, failing to beat a defensive West Brom, losing to Leicester. I don't care if they're about to win the league. my opinion on Leicester still stands. I was gutted when we lost to them. Whereas, so now, this has made my week effectively, but it means nothing if we don't build on it. So we've got to build on this. Hopefully finish 17th and then just put these last few years behind us. But we've still got not a long way, but some way to go yet. What do you guys think? Do you think that we've now got a decent chance of staying up based on the fact we've just beaten Norwich? I think psychologically, I mean, I'm looking at the goal difference right now, so just bear with me. The goal difference as it stands is Newcastle's got minus 26. I actually thought it was better than that. For some reason, I thought it was minus 24. Don't know why. But anyway, they've got minus 26. Norwich have got minus 25 in goal difference, and we've got minus 18. Now, we all know that can quickly change. We've seen it before. So, but Sunderland have an advantage there. It's almost like an extra point, or an extra half a point goal difference. So fingers crossed, Sunderland finish 17th and Norwich, Villa and Newcastle go down. That's all I'm praying for the end of the season. But nevertheless, we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, guys, I love yous and leave yous, and I can at least relax a little bit for a couple of days. So see you guys later. And finally, a win against Norwich. Who would have thought, considering they always turn into Barcelona when they play us? See yous later.